Oi, you know what time it is? You're tuned in listening to Dry That Aussie Metal Guy. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of his content when it drops. And remember, stay brutal, you mad dogs. Roof!
G'day, how are you all going? It's Jai, that Aussie Metal Guy here with Crank.com and with Cranium Radio. So tonight, wherever you are in the world, it is with great pleasure that I'm getting to have a chat with Tona Firefly from Beautiful Skeletons. Their latest EP, Temperance, does come out May 10th through Wormholedeath Records. I do a little bit of stuff with them as well, so I've actually had to listen to this. It's an absolute ripper. Thank you for joining me, Tona.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure, mate. For the uninitiated, can you tell me a little bit about who Beautiful Skeletons are and how would you describe yourselves to someone who hasn't heard of you before?
Yeah, absolutely. So Beautiful Skeletons we are a 4-piece band, and we're based out of Vancouver, Washington, here on the West Coast in the US. We started as a casual jam project back in 2019. We're all seasoned musicians. Managed to make it through COVID, got some lineup changes, yada, yada, yada. And then fast forward, basically, we finally found all of the right members, and it's just magic now. I mean, it's really awesome. I'm sure you are a musician as well, and you understand what that's like when you start getting the right lineup and everybody just kind of triggers each other, and it's just one giant, just happy fuck fest of writing music. It's just nonstop.
Yeah, it kind of does take a little bit of time to kind of get that lineup together and solid and consistent, because it does take a lot of work behind the scenes that people don't realize. Sometimes they get the guitar out and they're like, oh, I'm going to play guitar, I'm going to be in a band. And they're like, it takes this much fucking work. No, it's all right. I'll just stick back with the family, kid, and work. You know what I mean? So tell me a little bit about the meeting of minds between you and Einar as well. I hope I didn't annihilate your name, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. So both him and I have been in bands around this area for 20 years. I've not actually ran into him, which is weird because this is kind of a small scene. So normally you just see, people that were in a bassist in another band, like a couple of years later, they're in another band as guitarists. You see the same people over and over again, usually. And I'd never actually met him in other bands. And I took a break for a little while when my kids were really young. I think it was like 4 or 5 years. And then at some point, my husband was like, you are turning into a bitch. You need to go back to music. I was like, you're right. So I went and I looked for a project, and I was really torn because, investing in a band is like investing in a new family. And like, I don't know about you, but I am super drama free. I don't want all the other bullshit. We're a dry band. None of us drink and none of us do anything.
Thank you. I don't drink alcohol as well, which I feel is a huge problem at times.
Huge.
In the scene. And when you start going to shows and you're like, I don't drink, people are like a little weird at times. But like, I go out to these shows and I have an absolutely amazing time when I don't drink. I remember everything, like compared to some of the shows I went to in my 20s, very cloudy, and was I even fucking there? And now I'm like, I remember everything. This is such a joy. And being in music media or when you're in a band, you can't be going up to the crowd and the fans a drunken fucking mess as well. It has to be somewhat of a professional unit as well in the band.
Yeah, because it's not just about playing music when you finally get up on that stage and you've sound checked and you're ready to go. That is like the pinnacle of what you're working for throughout the whole entire day. But every step that leads you to that stage is important, and your sobriety and your responsibility and understanding of that is even more so. So it's kind of hard to find like-minded individuals who are still really good musicians, unfortunately. But I mean, just like the universe worked, and I'm not a super religious person, but I consider myself spiritual. I try to follow my inner instinct musically, and like the moment that I read his ad looking for a singer, and it wasn't like they weren't looking to gig or anything, they just wanted to jam, and he had like a bunch of influences listed and stuff, and I thought, this is interesting, but it's also Craigslist, so maybe we should meet in a public place and have a little conversation. So we did. We met at a Starbucks, talked it all out, like instantly knew this guy, we're going to be good friends and we're going to be very good musicians together. So that's kind of how that started. And him and I have a lot of the same influences, but it's really interesting because there is an age gap between all of us. I'm the baby of the band, right? I turned 39 tomorrow. Everybody else is in their like early 50s. So they all have like very different influences just due to the generation gap. But we also grew up in different places in the world. So very weird when we're all being interviewed, the answers that we give for our influences are so diametrically opposite of each other. But that's exactly what makes us make this like very unique, interesting take on alt prog metal or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Exactly, whatever you want to call it, it has a great sound. And you did mention influences there a couple of times. Who are some of the people, bands, artists who have influenced and inspired you as a musician, Tina?
Yeah, okay, don't laugh.
No, I won't laugh, mate. I just went and seen it. I listen to everything from classical to Amigo the Devil to folk punk to, if it's good, I will play it, mate. No judgments here.
Awesome.
Al Anderson from the Wailers. I was chatting to Michael Gabriel, who's like Prince's godson, into funk. So I love all sorts of music, mate.
Okay. Well, then I feel a little more comfortable. I would say the first group of artists that I ever heard, that I decided I was like, holy shit, I want to be like them. I have to say we're like the original divas of the 90s. So like Mariah Carey, Barbra Streisand, Toni Braxton, Whitney Houston, Celine Dion, all of these really big voices. Like I always loved that. And my mom also loved that stuff. So she played it all the time. But my dad was weird, like he only liked disco. So then I started liking ABBA. So yeah, my like beginning influences are just really strange. But then, you know, as time progressed, I think I'd say Evanescence, a lot of the 90s bands were hugely influential. You know, I heard Kitty and I was like, holy shit, I want to do that. So, you know, it's like Kitty, like early Evanescence, Alanis Morissette's also a huge influence. But then I also really enjoy listening and singing to artists like Tori Amos, where she has some very unique style.
She's got an amazing voice. I have to admit, I was a huge fan of her back through the 90s as well. Really, really amazing voice. Yeah.
Yeah, the only problem with Tori Amos is that you never know what the fuck she's talking about.
I know, but that's all right.
But it's okay because I like listening to it.
Yeah, and then another band you mentioned, Kitty, they're fucking gearing up. Like they're going flat out again at the moment. I think about to do a big US tour as well. So it's really good to see them back in action again too.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy after all this time, you know. I had actually met when she's not their bassist anymore, but like back in the day, Jennifer Arroyo was a bassist for them. And we had done like, I don't know, 6 months ago, they had a Fuse TV show and she was hosting that event. And so I actually got to meet her. Super, super cool girl. I was really nervous, mostly because I didn't want one of my favorite people to be like a total dick and ruin my fantasy of what I think they're going to be like. But actually, she was super nice. That's probably my only claim to fame for Kitty. I hope one day.
We're lucky, and we are very, very lucky in this community. I say community because it is a community. Most people in this scene are just absolutely bloody unreal. And that's the funny thing too. Like, you're so heavily in the scene, you're probably like, you go tell people you met from Kitty, and then they're like, who? And I'm the same. I will be sitting here and I'll be like, oh, I interviewed High on Fire the other day, and I'm going to my partner, oh, I just interviewed High on Fire. Who? Oh, they're fucking legend, they're big, they're cool. And who the fuck is that? I think we kind of know that we're this niche little community as well. We've got to support and lift each other up and look after each other as well, which I'm really, really glad to see things are slowly starting to change. Probably in the metal community, we're all starting to look after each other a lot more and speak up on things that aren't okay. Tell us a little bit about that first single you kind of released. I think it was the Bloodstains one, if I was correct.
Actually, it's Letter to a Narcissist.
The debut single I'm talking about. The actual debut single I've got.
Yeah.
No. Is that the one you were going with?
That's the debut single. Yeah.
Oh, not off the EP.
That is off the EP.
No. So that was the very first single you released, was it? As a band?
Oh, no, not as a band. Sorry. That's off the new one. The very first single,
that's what
technically, that we ever released was Bloodstains, and then
that's what I'm asking. Yeah.
Yeah, they're old songs, man. We wrote this in 2019, and we've had so many different drummers and
And
people in the lineup.
iterations of the band. That's what I was asking about. The
It's
first single. I always like to ask about that first
always
single as well with bands like you, because there is a growth and you can hear it
huge.
through from that first single right up to, as you mentioned, Letters to a Narcissist, which is the first single off the Temperance EP, which does come out in a week.
Yeah, very excited. Yeah, it's really interesting because I actually just did like a little like YouTube short video on like, I get a lot of people asking me when they see that live, like, how the fuck do you do that? How do you go from a screaming to a belting to, you know, and it's really difficult to explain because most of the time I don't even think about it.
Yep.
So I did my best to kind of walk through sort of like how I do it when I'm on stage for that particular song, which happens to be incredibly dynamic, which is sort of like every piece of music that you'll hear from us is going to be fairly dynamic. It makes the sound guy's job incredibly difficult as far as vocals go, because, and I've just learned over time, like, don't sound check with the top of your range, sound check your bottom range. Otherwise, you're going to turn your ass down when they start to hear you screaming. And then when you've got some really clean, airy kind of oohs and ahs, then you can't hear it at all. So I think that's a big struggle as a very dynamic singer. But at the same time, I feel like that's what makes us really unique. A lot of like metal fans in this area, they are so pretentious about, you know, what's metal. Oh, that's not metal. It's not metal unless it's got, you know, 3/8 progression. I mean, people get really like fucked up about that shit.
What?
And yeah,
I know, I see it all the
weird.
time. Cunts on social media. Sleep Token aren't fucking metal. What the fuck? I've seen Sleep Token a couple of times, man, and they fucking heavy. Some of those tracks and some of those breakdowns are just unfucking real. I'm like, do you even listen to heavy metal besides the 5 bands you have on your playlist? Because some of these prog bands, you just have such a great sound. You listen to bands like, for example, like Electric Callboy. They're mixed in like this dance rave thing with this heavy metal deathcore breakdown stuff, and it's fucking unreal. You find yourself rocking out to these pop beats and then into the heavy metal. Bands like Sleep Token. I love to hear something different, and I can't handle these pretentious assholes in the scene ripping it down. And being in music media myself, if I don't like something, I won't listen to it. I'm not going to tear down someone's vision, someone's musical fucking what they've got going on just because I don't understand it. I'll just listen to something else. I'm not going to sit there on Facebook going, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of people need to do that. Just because I don't understand it doesn't mean like Tina's not going to understand it, or this person over there is not going to understand it. So why should I tear that apart?
Exactly. And that's the very basis that makes our songwriting process totally unique. So, I mean, yeah, I kind of just have to ignore that stuff. And yeah, I think Cardi B said it better. Like, you know, she was on stage accepting an award and she was like, this is for all my haters who are still listening to my music or whatever she said. And I just died because I mean, it's true, you know, once you start getting people who have enough time to jump onto your social medias and be like, you suck. I just think it's hilarious. We did a music video reaction with The Suffering, which was our very first music video. And I sent it to like a gazillion reaction channels, okay? And one of them that picked it up was called Psycho Deck Reactions, and they really just react to like Asian, like Japanese metal. And they ripped it apart. Like they ripped it apart. It was brutal. And I watched it because everybody linked it over and was like, ooh, you're not gonna like this. I'm like, bring it on. So I watched the whole thing. I was laughing the entire time because I could tell they just fucking hated it. And so I jumped on that video and I left a comment saying like, sorry, you guys hated it, but thanks for reviewing it. I still appreciate that. And they like messaged me right away and they were like, dude, nobody's ever done that. Do you want to come talk about it on the show? And so I did. Like we got on, and I actually started doing reactions with them at that point.
Oh,
but,
nice.
I mean, there's no point in investing. Like, we got so much other shit we need to invest our energy in, and that's not one of them for me, at least.
Yeah, even like them commenting and doing stuff like that helps the algorithm. So cheers, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We did mention that the first single off of that, I do have a little bit of artwork on a share. Letter to a Narcissist off of the first single off the Temperance EP. Really, really cool track. Tell me all about it.
So I do all of the artwork for the band, all the graphics, I mean, everything for it,
Oh,
including,
wow.
you know, like the EP cover and all of these, like the single art covers. And like previous to this, we were kind of struggling with like what we wanted to brand ourselves as, like, you know, marketing is important, at least for progression in some areas. And when we were talking about the art for this, I don't know, I had this weird thing where I was like, all 5 songs are sort of like dark and reflective, and I thought it would be really cool if it was like a tarot card for each song, you know. And so that's what you're looking at there on the cover. So each single one of those is a song in order, you know. So Letter to a Narcissist being the first one. We have a lyric video coming out for Victim Loop on the 21st, and then Only Zool, which is the one that, I mean, I can't contain my excitement. We've been sitting on that music video for so freaking long. I tell you that, I'll give you this. I'm in full prosthetics.
Yeah,
And
nice.
I am a full, like, I have never been in full prosthetics. It was crazy. I fucking loved it. And it's going to be badass. So, but the video for Letter to a Narcissist was the first green screen video that I'd ever did. And it was weird. Like, well, our videographer is great, but apparently for green screen, you got to do the opposite of what you normally do. Like, normally I'm like a Mexican jumping bean. I'm like all over the freaking place, right? If I've got a wireless mic, I'm in the audience, I'm in the fucking bathroom, I'm over by the bartender. Like, you know, I get into it. But for green screen, you can't move. So he's like, don't move. I'm like, what do you mean don't move? Like, how do I not move when I'm singing? Yeah. So it was interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Really, really cool film trick and track. And you did mention Only Zool, which is a great track. The whole EP I really, really enjoyed listening to. Like, I wouldn't mind just going through quickly each of the tracks if we can, because it's a really good EP. Yeah. Some real heavy points in Only Zool. It's like, yeah, when you start screaming, it's like, fuck yeah, you feel that, dude. And as you said earlier on, you're like, the way you change your voice, you'll be singing these melodic moments and then you just go into like a heavy scream, and you know, tell us all about that, and then the track Only Zool as well.
Yeah. So I kind of mentioned like each one of the tracks has a theme. Generally when I'm writing lyrics, unlike Tori Amos, I like my lyrics to be like easy to consume.
Yep.
And in general applicable to anyone's life.
Yeah.
And obviously everyone knows a narcissist. We all know what that's like. Only Zool, although it sounds like a Ghostbusters tribute, it's not. I grew up in an extreme Roman Catholic religious background. I mean, like we were in mass 3 times a day, like like the whipping, the paddling, the whole thing, right? And I was like always concerned for my salvation. Like I always thought I was going to burn in hell. That's what the Catholics do. Yeah. Sorry, it's just what they do.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, when I was, I think 11 or 12, I got kidnapped by some priests, and they were doing a forced exorcism on me because I had been naughty in school, which I don't even remember what it is that I did. But basically, they threw me in a van, took me to a church in the middle of the night, and performed this exorcism, which was this just crazy, scary thing for me. Yeah. And ever since then, and I mean, I have a lot of like anti-religious establishment views, but ever since then, I have been trying to write a song that truly reflects that period in my life. The confusion, the fuck you-ness of it all of that. I have been trying to write a song that allows me to heal that memory, and Only Zool is the one. That's the one.
Yeah, no. It's definitely, it's a really, really good track. And damn, man, that would have been tough as hell. You know, I'm kind of more on your aspect of it, spirituality, the universe, what's going on up there. I'm not huge into these storybook religions. They're all tell some cool stories like Pinocchio and Moby Dick. It's fun to read, but you know what I mean? I take it all with a grain of bloody salt as well. Victim Loop, tell us about that track quickly.
Okay, so Victim Loop, I'm not going to name names, but Victim Loop is a song about one of my best friend's ex-boyfriends. And we all know that person that's like every time they get into a situation, something bad happens to them. It's never their fault. They're like, oh my God, I got fired. Why'd you get fired? Because I took too long of a break, and then I like I don't know, I took some stuff and put it in my car. Just shit like that. We all know those people that refuse to accept responsibility for their own circumstances. And I fucking hate that. I'm like brutally honest about myself, about other people, and I'm bad at pretending. And so this song is for that. It's because I just know so many people who are like constantly the victim. And we were talking about it one day, and I'm like, it's like a loop. They go in a loop. It's a victim loop. And
I've talked about this before, and then when I listened to this track, it made me think of that, because people go on this, I know, kind of like sympathy train. Poor fucking me. I've had this happen. I've had this happen. I've had this happen. I know people like that have had losses in their life, and I was there for all those losses as well, and went through everything as well. And it was like, well, why do you use that every day as a big, poor me, poor me? You can turn that into something positive. Like, I've lost a couple of brothers, and instead of, I overcame drug addiction when I was younger, and that by the time I was 19, I'd already overcame a full-blown drug addiction, had PTSD from watching my brother burn alive in fire. Instead of sitting around in depression, I wanted to turn that into something positive, because, instead of using what I'd been through as, like you said, a victim loop, as something to constantly go, poor me, poor me, poor me. We know people like that. Turn it around and do something positive with your life, because you bring a little light to your life despite the negativity you're going through. And even now, like I'm in remission from cancer. So all through that, I was trying to be as positive as I can through it all, and able to influence other people. And, I could have sat there in a victim loop and poor me, but why do that? Why do that in life as people? You can get so, you know what I mean? So listen to that song. I immediately started thinking all these different things with that involved as well.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the very last line in the chorus is never the victor, always the victim. And I feel like that really sums it up for people like that.
Yeah, and you can turn that around, people. Stop being the victim and start being the victor. That can change, from tomorrow, today, this moment. So if you're in that loop, change it. Change your attitude. Butterfly Pinned Under Glass.
That is the very first song we wrote, like fucking, I don't know, 100 years ago.
Oh, wow. And finally got it out there.
Yeah, finally. And what's fucked up? It's like I've been fighting against that song for so long, because I feel like it's a lot more poppy than I want it to be. And so when we get like sandwiched in between death metal bills, and all of a sudden we've got Butterfly Pinned Under Glass, and everyone's just kind of like, what the fuck is this? So I get kind of shy about that. But actually, as it turns out, it's a huge hit. People fucking love it.
Yeah, it's a good track.
It is a song also about a friend who just had such a hard time loving themselves. Just really difficult understanding that they deserve to be loved, they should be loved, they should love themselves. And so the song is really an ode to her. And I really wanted her to understand, like, this is how we all see you. You should see yourself like that. So that's the story behind Butterfly Pinned Under Glass.
Beautiful tracks. And even just the title of that, you kind of get that, like let that butterfly out of the glass to fly free. Last track on the album, Upside Down song.
Yeah, hilarious that they named it that. I was actually I was there when they named it that, and I was like, "What
the Down Under song?"
Right? I was like, "What the hell?" And my drummer, he's like, "Oh, I filmed the practice take with the camera upside down, so I just called it Upside Down song." And they're like, "You can rename." I was like, "No, actually, I really like it, and that's a cool story, so let's keep it."
Yeah,
so
I'm going to rename it the Down Under song when I play it.
Down Under. But yeah, Upside Down song is basically like, if you want the truth, here it is, but be careful, because it sometimes can be painful. And if you want to continue to be blind to it, sure, that's fine. But the rest of us are suffering through it. So, I mean, it's that's at least the concept in my head when I was writing lyrics for it. So that's what that one's about.
Yeah, no, it is a really, really great EP. It does drop on May 10th. Where did you record? Who did you record with it? Did you just do it yourselves, or who would you work with for that?
Yeah, we worked with one of our drummers' friends, is a new producer, and actually he produced all the albums for American Overdose, and he like gave us the bro discounts. So we're like, hey, fuck it, let's do it. So we ended up recording with him, and he runs a studio called Human Studios, a little studio out of Southeast Portland.
Awesome. Awesome. And you did mention live shows a couple of times. How's the live scene going over there? And do you have any shows upcoming for the release and everything like that? Yeah.
Totally. We're actually booked out till October right now. So the next couple of shows we've got the Whiskey will be opening up for the Iron Maidens, and that's on the 24th this month. So that'll be fun. And then after that we have I believe it's a festival in Orton, Washington. And then after that we will be on tour for a month with another band. We'll be able to make the tour announcement on June 1st.
Yeah, so that's something you all got to keep your eyes and ears peeled for the Beautiful Skeletons socials as well. Best place that people can head along and support you besides all the social media platforms. You got a website for merch, which I like to plug as well.
BeautifulSkeletons.com, and on the website you will also find all of our latest news, pictures, videos, and there's a schedule flyer there. So if you're interested in trying to catch a show, and it's updated constantly. So when we make the tour announcement, we'll be able to list where we're going to be and all that.
Awesome. There you go, people. Go out there, grab yourself a copy of the Temperance EP. It does drop May 10th through Wormholedeath Records. We're doing some cool things, have some great bands on them as well. Tina, do you have any last words, shout outs, thank yous, or anything else you'd like to add in there, my friend?
Yes, absolutely. The rest of the guys aren't here, but they're literally the best people that I have in my life besides my family. So I really appreciate them and being awesome. And you and Shauna for hooking us up on this call here. And I hope everybody enjoys what they listen to. And even if they don't, that's okay. We're happy to hear all kinds of things, not just compliments. I'm okay with criticisms too. But otherwise, I mean, we would love to see anybody at a live show. So if you do come out and you heard about it through this, then please, approach us, let us know.
Awesome. Tina, thank you so very much. Everybody grab some Beautiful Skeletons, put it in the stereos, crank it up really bloody loud. The neighbors are going to want to hear it too. Cheers, mate.
Bye.
Oi, you're tuned in to Jai That Aussie Metal Guy, so make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of his sick content. And remember, stay brutal, you legend.